All right, so how about we get going, and if others join, they join. Okay, so I want to welcome you to this webinar where we're going to talk about Dovetail, and we're glad you could join us today, and we hope you learned something. And from that, my name is Brandon. I'm the Director of Technical Product Management here at PRX. I'll be driving the demo today, and I'm joined by my esteemed colleague, Danica. She is our Director of Project Management. So she'll be the one monitoring the chat and occasionally interjecting with color commentary and just making sure I see questions because I have so many windows sharing right now stuff. So in that, so that'll be good. But also, please don't hesitate to ask questions, especially use the chat feature. And feel free to ask as we go for that. All right. So for a quick overview of what we'll be doing today, so I will first start with an overview of Dovetail, and then we'll move into a quick demo, and then we'll use the remaining time to answer any additional questions you have, and we'll open it up in that sense. And so, okay, let's get into it. So what you're seeing on the screen right now is PRX's mission. I just want to show that like our technology is deeply embedded into what PRX is, and we're glad to talk to you more about it. And so since 2003, we've been building technology that has benefited all of public media, starting with the Exchange, and we've built some early podcasting apps. You know, we've had sub-auto, automated delivery, and we've been innovating and leading public media. And so we feel that Dovetail continues this tradition. And so you may have seen this, but just yesterday, Edison Research posted an article that was entitled, "Americans Now Spend More Time with Audio on Mobile Phones and Radio Receivers." So I just want to note that we think it's crucial for public media stations to make the leap into podcasting. And we want to, and after that leap, we want to be able to see stations sustain success in podcasting. And so we want to help you with that. And we hope that these values you see on the screen give you comfort knowing that we build our technology with principles that we really believe in. So in other words, we want the podcasting industry as a whole to be successful, and we strongly feel stations have a role to play in this. We also have listeners' best interests at heart as we make decisions on our technology, and this includes respecting listener privacy, because privacy is a feature, not a limitation. And thirdly, we want stations like yours to find meaningful revenues from podcasting so you too can continue your mission in producing outstanding audio journalism in your local markets. So a few stats. There are on average 700 million downloads a month across around 279 podcasts hosted on Dovetail. And of note, the first show that we used Dovetail for was Serial, which was podcasting's original hit, and we've kept scaling from there. And stations of all sizes have podcasts on Dovetail that are currently being hosted. And in addition, we are the podcast host for independent producers like TED, Radiotopia, Religion is Sports. I've recently like PBS with the Arthur podcast. And so Dovetail is set up to do three things, and we think they do these three things well. And that is first, to publish and manage your podcast content and your RSS feeds. And second, measure the success of your content through podcast metrics. And thirdly, there are ad inventory management tools to help you monetize your content. So, and this is all possible through what is called dynamic ad insertion. And so dynamic ad insertion, or DAI, as you'll sometimes hear called, allows you to easily attach your sponsorship messages into produced audio to create what listeners experience as a final polished episode. So it enables you to add timely sponsorship messages to every episode in your portfolio, and not just your latest one, and tailor it to a specific audience without needing to recut your audio files when you make a change. And so with that, I'm going to go into a demo of Dovetail, and I'm going to briefly show you features from three main sections of Dovetail. So we have content management, podcast metrics, and ad inventory management. And also please note that this demo will be on our live production environment, but I'm going to use a fake podcast so that we protect producer privacy as well. So however, all the features you see are the real features that real producers use every day. So I'm going to switch tabs now to here. And we're going to start the demo by looking at our publisher tools. So these tools allow producers to quickly and easily create and edit episodes that are available through RSS feeds. So like when you publish your episode, it's going to be made available to wherever your listeners subscribe to podcasts. So from there, so I'm going to edit an episode. And in here, we can see that we have the title field, we have teasers, we have description. These are all fields that are made available through the RSS feed. So that's what's going to show up in the player when they subscribe. And then you can go through and add audio episodes. I'm actually going to go back 1 second here and go to this episode. You can see here we have podcast segments. So we have 3 segments here. So this would be a very familiar workflow for your audio engineers to go in and upload the episodes, a file for each one, and then we can infer where the ad breaks are going to be based upon this and in the template. So that will help you there. You can also categorize. And another cool tool is we have an embeddable player, which we've recently just redone and polished. And so what this will do is you could be able to take this and put it onto your website, and it'll track your downloads. You'll be able to see engagement, have subscribe links, as well as get the link to your episode audio if you have a built-in player to your website. So it's flexible in that sense. But one of the nice things is even when it's a draft episode, you can listen to the episodes. I had to publish and kind of see how some ads may appear within it, so you could kind of hear everything stitched together at the end. All right. And I said I was moving quickly, so if there's anything you want to see again, feel free to plop it in the chat, and I can circle back on that. I don't know if I can see the chat window at this moment, but
I'm watching it.
Okay, so I'll keep going here. So now if we go into the series itself, or the podcast page itself, there are like a lot of settings that also go into the RSS feed that describe your show. So you can upload your artwork and also manage your templates. So as I showed you before, every show can have multiple templates where each episode targets. And this really just tells us where ad breaks are going to go. So you can have mid-rolls, pre-rolls, house zones for house ads, however you want to set it up. It's very flexible in that sense. We also have a tool that allows you to set up multiple RSS feeds. So you can see here we have a default feed, and this is what goes out to the public. But then otherwise, you can also create private feeds or additional public feeds with different versions. So here, like say you're hooked up with a subscription service like Supporting Cast, you can come in and you can create a feed that is private, that has tokens on the end to keep them protected for that the user, so that the public can't see the episodes. And then you can come in and even choose which ad zones you want to include in the feed. So you can keep your house ads in this feed. So if you're in the middle of a donation drive, those ads can stay up, but it takes out the paid advertisements from sponsors because these folks are already paying for it. So it's up to you and how that's configured. And you could do some other things like set up feeds based on episode categories. Excuse me. As well as provide some different feeds with audio formats. All right. So it's a very cool, flexible tool to distribute podcasts as needed. And then also another feature I want to show in this portion is the episode planner for episode calendar planners, I think we could call it. So this allows you to tell us basically when your episodes are gonna release. So if you have a show that launches every Wednesday, every week, we can start to create a calendar of draft episodes where we don't need to know exactly what's going to be included in that episode, but we know an episode's coming. And what's important about this is if I choose a template with ad zones, we can then start to create a forecast and predict for episode spikes and episode drops that are coming. So it's a very quick tool to create drafts. And if I go back to the main screen here, you'll see we have the two columns. We have the publish episodes and the draft episodes. So we can see what's coming. And marketing teams tend to like this too, so they know what's coming down the pike as well. All right. So those were some publisher tools. And now I'm going to jump over into the metrics portion, podcast metrics, where you can see and understand your show's performance. So in here, so a few notes, like all of the data we collect is IAB 2.1 compliant, which is the ad board standards that are respected there. And you'll see we have in this breakdowns by episode, you could understand performance over a given time range that you can change. As you need to see it, you can export these to CSV. We also have APIs behind the scenes. Like we've helped some stations in the past set up like quick sites dashboards if they want to use their data in different ways. So however you use your data, we can help get this data to you. So we're not trying to hide anything in here. As well as downloads, you can also see the drop day, which is like if you compare every episode at the day it launches. So maybe Wednesday is not the best day to launch your podcast. You see they listen more on Thursdays. You can make those decisions there. We also have unique listener metrics, which is like the number of unique devices kind of that are accessing it. And it could be an interesting look at that way. If I jump forward, we also have demographics. And so this is where I want to pause a second, talk a little bit about privacy. So the data you see here, we collect in a way that is, we want to protect our listeners' privacy. So when we say location, we're getting a generalized location, not an exact location based on a user's IP address, but we don't save that IP address. We use it and we kind of throw it away. There's no way to track an individual listener. So we're not going to do metrics that will tell us more than that because we want to protect that for our users. And so we're always going to follow the strictest privacy laws. So when you think about GDPR in Europe, that's what we're going to follow. And we're going to apply that to our platform writ large. So here, but you can see we do have breakdowns by DMA. So if your station is in, Dallas or Boston, Seattle, right? So you can see how many folks are listening to your episode within the DMA. You can also do country breakdowns. And then the last section is you can also break down by device. And this is data we're getting back from the podcast player itself in the form of a user string. So we can tell which, if they're using Apple Podcasts, if they're using Spotify to listen, right? So it's these are things that all help give visibility into that. So I'm going to pause a second so I can get a drink here. And but if there are any questions, feel free to put them in the chat as well again. Okay. All right. The third portion I want to show you is our ad management tool. And so what's nice about our ad management tool is we don't have to use them only for paid ads, although that's a big use case of how we use it internally at PRX. But you can use them as well for like house ads or your donation drive that comes up every year if you want to sneak in spots onto your podcast, right? So we can create a new campaign, and I'm going to demo that exactly. So we will set up a new donation drive message, right? We can say who the advertiser is. In this case, it's us. So we'll set that, and then we can choose what type of ad it is. So either it's going to be paid, it's going to be paid programmatic. could be house, or it can be a system ad. And so another thing with dynamic ad insertion is it's not limited only to the ad spots. It's also a way to manage your billboards, your Sonic IDs, anything you want to add. So then you don't actually have to physically put them into every file that you do individually, but you can update them as you go. So if you ever change your Sonic ID, you just have to come into this, what we call campaign that manages your Sonic ID, and you could swap it out and it'll change on all your episodes going back. So I'm going to choose house ad in this scenario. You can say who the reps are for that, and then we will create this campaign. And then once I create the campaign, I'll be able to add targets to this, which we refer to as flights. And in here, we can name it, call it a test flight for now. And we can give it a date. So we can say, we want this to run from November 1st till the end of the year. And we want 2 months of this donation drive messaging in our podcast here. And we can do the series. We can add a zone, put this in a house pre-roll there. And we can attach our MP3s. I'm going to add an existing file. And once we do that, we can start to calculate. Or we have, well, let me back up. We have a few choices we can make here. We can choose to say we want X number of people to hear or to download this ad. So we can say, I want, let's say 4,000. Right, and then we can calculate and we can see if 4,000 works, or we can, that's weird, am I missing something here? And it's going to show you where those are available. Looks like we have a little bit of an overbooked podcast here for that, but you could also come in, and so you can see how it changes. We also have baked in ads. Or faked in, as they're sometimes called. And this would like simulates like putting the file into an episode where it goes on every download that's available. So then we can calculate this. And we can see here in the availability number, what's available here. And I'm actually going to switch my zone because I think that's the issue I'm having right now. Okay. So we're going to recalculate here. Now we're going to switch back to cap. And now our availability number, there we go. Okay, that's better. All right, so on this, if we run this creative in the pre-roll, this is showing us how many impressions are available to this ad creative, right? So the availability number is our forecast, which we have a forecast that runs behind the scenes every night that will, that like takes into account like how we think a podcast is going to perform based on past performance and also what drops are coming. And then it's subtracted from anything that's reserved in the system already. So, so you can see here we have 3 million downloads, which is plenty of space. So now if I add in, let's say we want 100,000 impressions for this ad, we're going to calculate it. And you can see we're going to meet.
You're in draft.
Yes, yes. And now I'm going to put it over to hold and I'll recalculate. Sorry. And now we'll see that our allocation, once you hold it, now Dovetail is going to reserve this inventory for you up to 100,000 impressions. So the nice thing is you can rest assured knowing that once 100,000 is hit, this ad will stop delivering. You don't have to go back in, recut any files. This applies to any episode in your back catalog. For that, I can also change it to deliver fast if we want these 100,000 impressions to deliver quicker. You can see they'll all deliver in this first week, which is sometimes not how folks want it. They could deliver it evenly or that. And now if I switch it in the baked in, it's going to take, you'll see this chart doesn't like calculate because it's going to take every impression that's available on this download in these zones or that. And then we also have one more type of zone type, and that's a remnant ad. And these are things you can put that run in the background. So if there are no baked in targeted flights, if there are no cap targeted flights, then it would run a remnant. So these are good for like programmatic ads. So if you're a part of an exchange, certainly like our market ingenuity one, I know NPRs are starting to roll one out, right? And so that's where I think a lot of those ads would live in that sense. A few other things you can also, I'm going to change this back to a capped ad real quick, and we'll add our goal back. I'm going to recalculate. Okay, and then another thing is with our forecast, as I mentioned earlier, we also do a forecast based on these different types of targets, as we call them. So country, episode, DMA, these are all the things I showed in the metrics piece. And we can target ads at those specific things as well. So if we want to do a DMA code and we wanted to do New York, we can recalculate up here and we'll see that now the forecast is going to take into account the New York DMA only. You can see this will still work, and Dovetail will only serve these impressions to people in that DMA market with IP addresses in that market. With that, so that's kind of like a quick look into the system for that. We also have a lot of other tools that do like QAing. You can actually go in and view podcast or the forecasts and make sure and test them for like accuracy and stuff. But one other tool I want to show you is this availability search tool. So what this tool does is like, this is a tool we built for like our sales teams because they want to see what's available faster than going into a form, creating a campaign, and so on and so on. So here we can say, we can go in through November through December. We can select our series again. We can say which zone we want. In this case, I want the pre-roll. And we can even add a geo target if we want, but we can calculate it. And now in this table, we have a really quick way to view the availability. So we can see the overall inventory, what's been allocated already, what's available, a sell-through rate, and all that is very easy for sales teams. And this is something they can use even when they're on the phone with a potential sponsor, and they can see. And since most of you are in local markets, I can also see adding a DMA code. And in the case of New York again, you can select your DMA code before running this as well. And you can localize, you could sell local advertisements on your podcast. In that sense. So those are a few things I wanted to show. Like I said, there are more tools. I'd be happy to show them. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. I think what I'm going to do is go back into the slide deck here. So with that, if you like what you've seen so far in this demo in the webinar, just know that we have flexible pricing and that our station services reps, a few of them are on the webinar here, are there to help you to get an estimate for your organization. We want to work with you, so our rates will be competitive, I think. So in that sense, reach out to them. And then also know that we have a support team that's here to support you through onboarding transitions, through feed migrations, as well as using the platform. And we have a comprehensive help desk with ticketing system as well as help docs. So you don't ever feel lost on our platform, if that's the case. And so thank you. I went really quick through this. That's a top level kind of overview of the system. But if you're interested in Dovetail, reach out to your station rep, or you can fill out the contact form on dovetail.prx.org, or you can send us an email at dovetail@prx.org. So now I think we can open the floor for questions, and I can leave my screen up in case you want me to show something else too, but thank you.
I think I'm going to pause recording so that y'all don't have to be worried about being recorded when you're asked your questions.